welcome to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. I'm Beth Cooper.
I'm Stacey Earlywine, and I'm tired because we got our show this week.
Yes, yeah.
We
so
do.
Our nostalgia show is this coming weekend. It's April 4th and 5th. That's a Friday and Saturday night. It's at 7 p.m. both nights in downtown Florida at our beautiful Nostalgia Theater.
That theater is pretty.
It is pretty.
It is pretty.
If you haven't
It
been
is
in
pretty.
it lately, you need to go just to see it, because we have, and when I say we, I mean mainly Stacey and Jim, but there's a board of us that
There's a board that I think can help me.
it is gorgeous. It's got
It is
chandeliers. The floor is flat.
Painted,
It's
yeah,
just
but
so
it's-
pretty.
it's-
There's a big stage and there's a balcony, and
Yeah, the
it's
balconies
nice.
really come together a lot. And
Yeah.
have you been up there since Jim boxed those things in and painted
Yeah,
them?
looks
that
nice.
looks good. Yeah, yeah. It's just I'm really proud of the theater.
I'm proud of it too.
The theater's pretty.
And I'm proud of the actors that have put in so much work
Wow.
in this Western play that is coming up called
Cactus
Pass. And it's based in a little Western town, and it's funny.
it is funny.
And it has got some really talented, all of them are talented, and they're all like really putting their heart and soul into their
Yeah.
parts. It's so good.
It is funny.
But we've been practicing a lot, and we have practice again tonight, and then dress rehearsal later, and then our show on Friday and Saturday. So
Yeah, because they don't just these shows don't just put themselves together overnight. I mean, I start usually picking it out in January, then about the third week of February. Of course, it's earlier than it usually it.
yeah, we're having it a little earlier this year, but
Easter
and
threw me off.
Yeah, but that made our practice schedule a little shorter, I felt like, and it just
I did, and I needed
it
that.
just- yeah,
Yeah, and I like it a little bit earlier because it does fall. You know, some of my actors have kids in sports, but that they end up pulling it off at the end anyway, and they're
Yep.
funny to have. But I just realized though, because like the 2 or 3 that have kids in sports, their kids are not going to be in 8th grade volleyball anymore because they're going to be going to high school, and high school volleyball doesn't interfere with that. So the parents were like, next year, the next few years will be easier because we don't have kids that are in because high school volleyball runs right at that time. We lose Jim, but kidding me, Jim can
He's
miss.
a natural.
Jim
He
could
can-
come to one practice and have it.
he'll be fine.
But yeah, but it is funny. We got so many new ones.
Yeah,
I love the new ones. I'm excited about them. And those new ones came and they
just
just
took off.
took off.
And there's a special guest in the show that is not human, is an animal. That's all we're gonna say. You have to come watch to see what it is.
That's
But-
a first.
That's a first, but it's it's great.
That's a first. And another first is I'm making Jim sing with me.
Yes, yeah. Jim and Stacey are going to do a duet. I got to listen to it for the first time last night because I'm helping with sound. And
How did he do?
He did great.
I thought he did pretty good.
I think he did great. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
Of course, I love the song, so I was singing along too. But yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it's we sing it when we do karaoke, but yeah. So Jim thinks that he's like, yeah, Stacey's an amateur, and I'm like, I've been singing for 50 years.
Oh gosh, crack up.
But yeah,
anyway, it's gonna be a really good show. You guys should come.
I'm
Buy
excited about
tickets
it.
at the door. Tickets
I
are
do.
$10 each.
Yeah, they are. We don't sell it. We don't. Somebody called me the other day and said, "Can I come in and pay for it?" And I said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
But you know what? We never did go on WNOI.
I know. I realized that this week. We
I didn't
always
even
go
think.
on WNOI. I've been busy with a bunch of stuff. Stacey's been busy with a bunch of stuff, and this snuck up on us, and it's like we didn't even get our time in on WNOI.
Yeah,
but-
we really didn't, but I think it'll be okay because Facebook's where,
Yeah.
Facebook, and I've got flyers around. I got a couple more places to drop off flyers, but yeah, and the board will all just flood it this week with that. And
Yep.
Plus, with all the actors, the word gets out.
yeah,
So
they
it's,
bring their families and friends,
Yeah,
and yeah,
the plays are a lot of fun, but yeah, because we used to do when it used to be called the Depot Show. When we did it for the Depot, it was always Mother's Day weekend, and May is just insane. I don't like doing it in May. I want to get busy in my yard and that stuff. So, what a couple of years ago did we move it up like the end of April?
well, it.
What did we do? I can't even
Once
remember.
we got our theater, that's when we could change the time.
Oh, that's right.
Because
That's right.
the reason that
Yeah.
we had it on Mother's Day weekend was because we had to wait for the
available.
we were doing it at the high school in the auditorium, and we had to wait until the high school play was finished before we could have access to that room. And they usually have theirs, also in the spring. And then we also had to work around,
That's
sometimes
right.
they would have baccalaureate
Award
in there.
banquets.
They would have
Yeah.
award banquets, band stuff. There was
That's
all
what it
these
was.
different things. And so we had to work with the high school on our date, which was fine.
Yeah.
But
The
it's
high
just
school
so
was
much
beautiful to
better
us, yeah.
whenever we have our own building and we set our own dates and it's not based on anyone else's schedules but our own.
Well, yeah, because like a lot of times, like when we did it at the high school, we literally didn't get on the stage till that week.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times, like we'd literally practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
We would practice at a church.
At a church up until then, but it's so much easier because now now that we're at the theater, everybody knows and we start
exactly
practicing
where to be
from
at.
day one. No, it was so difficult to do it. Like they'd be
Yep.
like, well, when I'm on stage, it's like, don't even ask. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. One of the actors asked me last night. And we were up there, and she leaned over and she said, "Should we be more spread out?" I said, "Honey, at this point, I don't care what happens. If you want to spread out, spread out. I don't care what you do." I take advantage of the thought that I'm used to a stage. I'm used to microphones. I'm used to a stage.
But some of these new people
But they're
aren't,
not.
so they
And-
need a little bit more direction of like, oh, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah,
and
they
you
need
just gotta
to
tell
be
them.
like, oh, I need to go here, here, here. And I've been, like I said, I was started back in 2000. When did a depot show even start? 2000, 2001. I think it was 2001 that first year.
I think so.
But anyway, so I've been in every single one of them. Then once we took over, Beth and I are no longer on the board on the depot. So, yeah, we just decided the theater needs the money, so we started doing
That's
it
right.
for ourselves, and it's working out well for us, and it's a lot of fun, and it's just easier, there at that theater.
Yep, much
And the
easier.
children's play. Yeah.
Love the children's play.
Yeah, and
That's
now-
always
but-
so cute.
But wait a minute. I mean, you just got thrown into running sound. So we have a sound guy, Kevin, but like the sound's all over here, and then where you start the thing, like the music. So he was running back and forth. Beth was there last night. It's like, hey, Beth, just run the sound. Is it it
No,
hard?
it's great. I can do it. I've actually done it before at practices. What
Okay.
I'm doing. So other years, it's fine. I didn't
So
take.
you
I'm
have to
usually
communicate with him?
not
Do you
really.
have to talk? Because like, how does he?
A little bit.
Because once he
We're
sees
fine.
us
We
grab
both have
microphones.
we both have a script in front of us
Okay.
that tells us our cues. But also, like normally, I have a part in the play.
Yeah.
And this year, Stacey and I both talked and decided that we would just co-direct and not have a part.
Yep.
But then we had a person that something changed and we had an extra spot, so then Stacey jumped in to do that, which worked out great because actually it's much cuter this way. I think. Like I think Stacey's making her part super funny. So wait and see.
Well, I was planning on singing anyway. I was going
Right,
to sing
she
a
was
lot
gonna
during,
sing.
so I was going to be up
So-
there. And the fact that the last person you would want that sound. So the fact that I took, because I was like, well, I hope Beth didn't want to take the part of this, because I'm like, then I got to thinking, well, who
I
cares?
didn't.
Then especially.
I didn't. I've just been.
And then last night it was like, if I had to push, I'd be a nervous wreck in that sound booth.
Oh, no.
Technology freaks me out, man.
Yeah, I know it does. But no,
So-
it was a good year for me to take a step back on that because I just have been really busy with work. And so.
Well, I realized
it's
last
just-
night as we were going through it too, because like there's been so many gone, which that doesn't bother me. Don't get me wrong, I like
Gone
everybody
from
being there,
practices.
but it doesn't really bother me because there was one time we did a show, and the first time we went from start to finish with everybody there was Friday
night
opening
of.
night. I don't get too freaked out about it. Whatever happens, happens. It's fun. It's
Yeah.
going to be okay. Everything's funny.
We're not
We're not
perfectionists.
professionals.
Yeah.
But the last night I was like sitting backstage, because now like everybody was there, so I didn't have to read 15 different parts, and I was like,
Yeah.
I gotta be on stage, and I'm like, I don't know my life.
Yeah. Well, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
You'll be fine.
I'll be fine. Yeah, I'm not. I haven't lost any sleep over it, but yeah, it's just a lot of. I'm looking forward to this play. I really
Yes,
am. But
me too.
next year it'll go probably if Easter doesn't fall, because that's what, and Easter messed us up, because last year we did it like that third weekend of April, and that was perfect.
Yeah. But just Easter is too close to
It's
Easter this year.
yeah.
Okay. Do you
But
have
I
an
do-
ad for
yeah,
us?
I do have an ad.
Okay. What is
Well,
it?
this is an ad that I'm going to go on Amazon and see if I can purchase.
Oh. Okay. Oh.
Obesity and its only cure.
Oh, this looks uncomfortable.
Basically, these things are quick cures. So basically, it's a belt.
Yeah, it's a corset, basically.
It's a corset.
Compression belt, corset belts.
The
Ladies
Krause
and gentlemen.
Figure Improver Company. Did you get that? The Krause Figure Improver Company. Victoria Building, Manchester. What's that say, Beth? White, dove, or drab? Really?
Drab.
Why would I want a drab? Why would I want a drab
Let's
belt?
read the top part. Obesity and its only cure. Drugs are nauseous and weakening and do not cure. But the Krause belt and corset belt affect a cure practically without the knowledge of the wearer.
Oh, I bet I know I had that
I bet I know. To the slim, they give a graceful and elegant appearance and ensure the proper set of any gown. Gentlemen will also find this belt most beneficial and comfortable. Send for our illustrated booklet giving full particulars. You have the compression belt, ladies or gents, white, dove, or drab, $21 or pounds, I guess. I think this might be England.
It's probably pounds.
White silk face, $25.60. All white silk, $30 or pounds. The corset belt, white, dove, or drab, $23.60. White silk face, $32.60. Or all white silk, $40. Send measurements of waist and largest part of hips.
I love it.
All inquiries to be addressed to ladies to the manageress and gentlemen to the manager.
Now, how fun is that?
So if you were a lady, you were not sending your measurements to a man.
You're sending it to the manageress.
And if you were a man, you were not sending your measurements to a lady. That would be, she could never read the measurements of a man. Disgraceful.
Well, see, I'm looking at these none of them have a double. These are bad advertisements. They don't have fat arms. Right. They don't have double chins, and they don't have big
nobody
old
did back then. Nobody did. I mean, if there was a fat person, it was really they were in the circus because there was nobody else. There was no one else. Everyone was slim.
Everybody was skinny. Is that not hysterical?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to get on Amazon today and see if I can get this corset belt.
You could probably buy one, but you probably wouldn't like wearing it. That'd be my guess.
Good Lord, I wouldn't be able to. Any undergarments.
I'll take comfort over.
Oh, me too.
Looking perfect any day.
I don't deal with that very well.
No, me either.
Yeah, I'm very. And the older I get, it's like, no, I'm all about comfort. I don't care. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, Spanx. Mm-hmm. You know what? If you need to wear Spanx, let it ride, because everybody knows you need Spanx, and then all Spanx did was just make my knees fat.
Make your knees fat. No, I do.
It'd be like okay, Spanx, and there'd be a big roll at my knees because that fat's got to go somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
It's terrible. Or you're like,
I know. Well, I have.
If you have to go potty.
Oh, I have a pair, but they're actually pretty comfortable. I wear them under dresses. But do you not have any that have the slit? So you don't actually have to take them down when you go.
Do you know how many? It's been years since I bought Spanx. Have they just getting? I could tell you a story about me even putting a pair of Spanx on and Jim walking.
It would make me think of the episode of Friends whenever Ross had the leather pants.
Yes. Yeah. And I was sweating. I started busting out sweat. I'm like, get the scissors, cut these off.
Oh my gosh. No, they're made better today. They're a little thinner, but still that
packet of power.
They give you a nice line down the dress so no one sees your panty line.
That is good.
But also you don't have to take them down because there's just this little pocket that you just kind of open.
Nice.
And then you can pee.
See, because I love jumpsuits, but I will never wear a jumpsuit because they all zip in the back. Mm-hmm. You'd have to go to the bathroom with me all the time.
Yeah, no thanks. You wouldn't want to go to the bathroom with me either.
No.
That's just...
No, because I'd be in there every 5 minutes with you.
I know. I pee a lot. I can't help it.
This is way too much information.
They don't care.
They don't care.
But we probably need to take a commercial break. So we will be right back.
At your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville, you can count on experts to have the solutions to keep you running on the road or in the field. More than just your car, the Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville carry a large inventory of Napa products for farms, heavy trucks, and just about everything that moves. Experienced associates understand your needs and are ready to help with the perfect part at a great value. That's Napa Know-How at your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville. Briscoe Surplus Sales on the northeast edge of Flora is your one-stop do-it-all shop. Looking for rugged boots and footwear from great brands like Lacrosse, Rocky, and Carolina? They're there. How about top-notch small engine parts and service? Briscoe Surplus Sales has it. Whether you're wiring your switches or switching your wiring, Briscoe Surplus Sales has the solution and the know-how to help you get the job done right the first time. Briscoe Surplus Sales, your one-stop do-it-all shop.
We like technology at Flora Savings Bank. Here's what you can accomplish in our mobile banking app in less than 30 seconds. See account balances in your transactions, set up an account alert, make a transfer between accounts, get an alert text message about your transfer, pay a bill, turn your debit card off and then back on. It all happens in the palm of your hand with our free My Bank to Go app. Search My Bank to Go in the App Store or Google Play and give mobile banking a try. Flora Savings Bank, member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. I have an interesting story today.
Well, I'm anxious to hear this story.
And actually, this story is so long, I don't even know if I can cover it all in one episode. So I'm just going to preface it by saying it's like a three or four parter. If I don't finish it all today, I'll make it into another episode for next week. Okay. We've never done that before, but today might be a first. So this story is about a man named William Wilson, okay? And he came from England on a Liverpool, England, on a ship in 1851, way back when. Oh, yeah. Now, his great-grandson was Don Dury. And Don, I have information on him too, but he owned Western Auto, I think, in Flora. Okay, so this was his great-grandfather, and then he gave this diary of William Wilson's to Pauline Colburn, who included it in some of her articles. So the interesting thing about William Wilson is that he wrote everything down. His spelling wasn't always perfect, and his punctuation wasn't either, but he has a really interesting diary starting way back in the 1850s when he was on the ship coming over to America. And I think that he realized at the time, like, you know what, I might want to write this down. Like, this might be something later to tell my kids when they're older. They might want to hear this story because he had young kids. So I'm going to share a lot of his diary with you. And this is how he starts. I thought of giving you a brief history of my life from the time I embarked for the United States. I embarked on board of the Vanguard, laying in water on dock, Liverpool, March 16, 1851. It was an American ship. Captain Norton was our commander. The ship's tonnage was 3,000 tons. The crew consisted of 24 officers and men and 400 passengers. The Vanguard was a sailing ship of the Black Star Line. Okay, so I tried to find a picture of the Vanguard. The only Vanguard ship I could find was an English ship, not an American ship. So I don't know what happened to the ship. I couldn't track down a picture of it or of this Captain Norton, who was the commander. The first night we boarded her in the dock, there wasn't a light allowed. So it was pitch black. I tell you, there was some fun that night, fiddling and dancing, some at prayers of the darkest kind, while others praying to God for a safe passage across the ocean and children screaming. So some people were praying dark prayers. Some people were praying to God for safe passage, and all these kids were screaming. Everything's pitch dark. No one was allowed a light. I don't know what's happening. Okay. Oh, my. It's just interesting. Okay. I myself was one with a family of 4 small children, the oldest of which was 6 years old. The youngest was 3 months old. There were 150 of us able-bodied men gathered up off the public works in England and consigned to Portland Brown Stone Quarry in Connecticut. Okay, so he's going over there to work at this quarry in Connecticut. Apparently they had sent over scouts to find men from England that would be willing to move over there to work in the stone quarry. The men that came over to gather us up wanted one man and wife and family for every 10 single men to keep boarding house for them when we landed in Connecticut. Okay, so they wanted one family and then 10 single men. And then they had these houses over there in Connecticut that they were going to put one family in plus 10 extra men. And then the wife of said family would help cook for all of these people. That was the deal. They got boarding and everything and a job.
Right.
You know, they're going to, but it was hard work. And instead of getting one man and family for every 10, the guy got one for every 8 men, which made and this is his words, which made it very inconvenient for us when we landed, as the company hadn't enough houses for us to go in. So because the numbers were different, they only had a certain amount of numbers. Well, the guy didn't follow directions, so now they're short some houses because they did it only 8 men to every family.
Wow, that's crazy.
Before we left the dock at Liverpool, the captain divided our party off from the rest of the passengers with a boarded petition in the steerage, for I suppose he thought he had a rough gang to deal with. We was a picked gang of mixed men, both English, Scottish principally. So I don't know, but I think that means that he kind of partitioned the families off from all of the single men. Okay. We was towed out of dock in the morning of the 17th into the something. He couldn't read his writing there. There we laid to and took on more freight. At 12 o'clock, the tugboat hitched to us and towed us out to sea. The captain proposed to come north about, as the wind was in our favor for that route. That is between Scotland and Ireland. We hadn't any more got on good headway with the tug, as the order was given to hunt for stowaways. 2 were found. They were put on board of a boat and set on the other side of the river from whence they came. So immediately got rid of those 2.
Wow.
When the tug threw off her hawsers and kept us adrift, the captain got in to the board that he was hung on the davits and kept a strict lookout all the first night, as north about is considered a dangerous channel. We could see the lights on either side of the course, as we had a very steady breeze in our favor all night. On the morning of the 18th, we lost sight of the Irish coast. All went well till we had been out to sea about 3 days. One of the young sailors was larking about with one of the passengers' girls. So one of the single men was larking about with one of the daughters of the families.
Never heard the term larking.
Nope. I don't think I want to lark, because guess what happened to him?
Don't want to know.
And the second mate told him to go forward, and at the same time he lifted him behind with his foot. The sailor turned sharp around and struck the mate between the eyes, which knocked him down flat on the deck. Then the other officers took the sailor on the quarterdeck before the captain. The captain ordered him to strip off to his bare pelt and be tied to the rigger, that his feet would barely touch the deck, and to receive 25 lashes with the rope's end, and that the mate that he knocked down to give them. About the time he came after him with the rope's end, about 50 of the passengers made a rush for the spot where the man was towed. The captain drawed his revolver and then told them to stand back. But there was a continual yell, shoot, and be damned. You can't shoot us all. And with that, the man was taken down without a lash and ordered to his room, but he resumed his watch on the next call. I was afraid there would be trouble right there, but the captain saw it and quietness was restored. Drama.
Drama?
This sounds like a pirate ship,
It's
but
awful.
okay, so the guy got in trouble for larking about with the girl. The other sailor punched him. I'm a little confused about which one was tied up to be lashed, but I think it was the one that was larking about. But then all of the people broke in and was like, no, don't do that. And so it was stopped.
This sounds like a craziness.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I'd want to be on that.
I don't want to be on this ship.
I don't want to be on the ship.
Oh, just wait. He's only 3 days in.
Holy cow. And how long is this trip going to last?
It's a long one.
Ugh.
All went well again for several days until we had a heavy storm from the east, which blowed away all our sails. The ship reeled and pitched very heavy all one night and day, so heavy that we couldn't get anything cooked to eat, which rice was the principal food. We had 3 cooking galleys on the ship, one for the captain and his men, one for the poop's cabin, and one for steerage. I don't know.
The poop's cabin?
That's what he wrote, but his spelling's terrible. I don't know. The passengers had to choose their own cooks for both of these galleys, which they had done, and then gave them a small recompense for their serviceries the voyage over. The next day after the storm, we were all pretty hungry. Everyone seemed to want to cook first. The steerage galley would only hold about 40 small tins from 1 quart to 1 gallon, which every one of these belonged to the passengers. One man had a small tin on the galley with his rice in boiling, and the cook thought it was done enough, so he took it off and held it up for the owner. Here's your rice. It's done. Yours is done.
Yep.
Okay. Which everyone knew their own can and claimed them when handed to them. The owner looked inside and said, this rice isn't cooked. It's only half cooked. And the cook said, hand it back again, which he done so, handed it back. So the cook set it on the galley for about another 10 minutes. Then he took it off and shouted for the owner, hey, your rice is ready. And so the owner goes over, takes the can away from him again, and complained like he did before that his rice wasn't even half cooked. So the cook asked him to hand it to him again. And he took it and he threw it onto the owner's head. Oh. Now, you may talk about scalded heads, for there was one right there. Not funny how he worded that, but also not funny. For the lid flew off, the boiling rice flew all over his head and down his back.
Oh, wow.
The captain said it served the man right, as there were scores of other passengers waiting to eat. So, was there something not working right on the stove and the rice really wasn't cooked? Was the man in the right? Who was in the wrong here? I don't know.
I don't know.
Finally, the trouble over the uncooked rice ceased and all went well. We made good headway with a steady breeze till we came up on the banks of Newfoundland. There we were becalmed 2 nights and a day, not a breeze to move the sails, and when we rose in the morning, the ship's bows laid toward the rising sun, and I tell you that it is a beautiful sight to see a sunrise over a calm sea. The second morning, a slight breeze sprung up and filled the sails, and she soon got on her course again. There was a young man when at home, was living in Wisconsin. He had been over to the old country to fetch his aged father and mother. So he was living and working in Wisconsin. He went back to England to get his mom and dad. Okay. The poor old lady was taken sick about 4 days before we landed, and she died.
Oh.
The sailors sewed her up in a piece of old sailcloth with a lump of coal at her feet and laid her on the gangway and slid her off feet foremost. The poor old lady dug her own grave as she went down, and the young man was nearly frantic to think that he had fetched his mother to bury her at sea.
You know what? Because back in the day, they didn't really know if you were dead or what.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how many bodies are in the ocean?
No.
We need to take a commercial break.
All right. We'll be right back.
There's a lot of bodies out there.
If you're looking for a loan for your brand new home, call Clay County State Bank. If you want to transfer money so your future will look sunny, call Clay County State Bank.
We got checking and savings and bill pay too.
An online bank, just ask our crew. For all your banking needs, we think you will agree.
Clay County State Bank is the place you need to be. Clay County State Bank.
tomorrow. Some fear the uncertainty it brings. Some trust the promise it holds. At Grinnell Mutual, we are always looking forward to tomorrow, growing and innovating. So even if the plans you have for the future aren't the same as the plans that the future holds for you, you can be ready. Because we'll be ready, like we have been for over 100 years. Trust in that. Trust in tomorrow. Talk to your mutual agent today.
Your local agent is on the square. Louisville, Clay County Farmers Mutual Insurance.
At Clay City Banking Company, we're all on the same team, regardless of zip code. At home, work, school, or across the country, you can be part of our team with our cutting-edge mobile banking products. From your hand, you can check balances, transfer money, make deposits, and pay bills. Looking for a loan? We've got you covered with our mortgage, agriculture, commercial, and consumer loans. Join our team today. Clay City, Flora, Louisville, and Fairfield Banking Companies. We're the hometown banks, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Welcome back to, by the way, Beth and Stacey. I'm talking about the diary of a man named William Wilson who came from England, ended up in Clay County, is actually buried near Edgewood is where he's buried. And we can talk about that in a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead with some of his diary.
Yeah, I want to hear more of his diary.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He's on the ship on his way over here. The second day in the morning before we landed, there was quite an amusing incident for us all. He's calling this amusing, but his sense of humor and mine are different.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's very amusing. There were two pilot boats about equal distance from the ship, one to the starboard and the other to the larboard. The captain sighted them and knew them both. I heard him say to the first mate, "Now we will give them something to do today." At the same time, we were running about 15 knots an hour and every stitch of canvas set. The pilot board chased us all day and could gain very little on us. About an hour before sunset, we took in a little sail and bore away to the larboard boat, and the other boat soon saw what we was favoring, and she quit the chase. And when they took the pilot on board, I heard the captain say, "We gave you a good chase," and the pilot said, "I'll be darned if you didn't." Okay, maybe that part's a little bit amusing, but the next part isn't. The pilot went up aloft and tried to sight land before dark, which he couldn't do. So we made very slow headway all night. In the morning, just before day, we were all snugly in our bunks. We felt a heavy gam against the side of the ship, which woke us all up. I ran up on deck to see what was the matter. I saw a tugboat along the side, and the captain of the tug shouted, "What ship?" The answer was the Vanguard. And he said, "This is Captain Norton on deck," which was the man he was talking to. So this tugboat, the one that had been chasing them, runs them in early morning into the side of their boat, wakes everybody up, and says, "What boat is this?" And the captain's like, "This is the Vanguard. I'm Captain Norton." He said, "Captain, so you want to tow up?" The captain said, What do you want to tow me up? What do you want to tow me up? The answer was $100. So here they are getting close to land. These tugboats are kind of fighting over who's going to tow them in because they want the money.
For it, yeah.
They want the money. The answer was $100. The captain said, "I will not pay $100. I will beat you first."
Oh.
So with that, the tugboat sheared off and left us. After a while, the tug came around and struck us on the other side. And he sang out, "Captain, what will you give?" And Captain Norton said, "I'll give you $50. The tug captain said, "Give 75. Captain said, "I won't give it." Well, the tug captain said, "Throw out your hosses." About that time, we caught sight of Sandy Hook Light. I believe that was a lighthouse. So the tug hitched on and towed us up to Constantine ground. Okay, so they ended up paying him, I guess, the $50, but like he just kept running into the ship. I would have thought that could have sunk it. I mean, it's not like it's not like today's ship, which is made of steel. It was made of wood,
Right.
I think. There she laid to until the health officers came on board. Okay, so the health officers at wherever they are came and ran all the passengers half, then strung a line across the midship. Then the officers took hold of the line about 6 feet from each other and passed us through 2 by 2 under the line. If they saw one with a delicate face, they dropped the line and examined their tongues. Finally, they passed us all through without setting one ashore. We were all considered a healthy lot of passengers. So they did this health inspection. Everyone had to line up and go through, and if you looked pale or weak or your face wasn't right, then they examined your tongue. Okay.
So weird.
Then we got on our way again and arrived at Peck's Slip on the East River, New York, on the 14th of April, after passage of 27 days with favorable wind all the way. Connecticut boat came along the side, took off all the men to gather their families that was consigned to the Portland quarries. Some of the young men went ashore at New York, filled their bottles up with rum. This boat left the ship with about 200 passengers, men, women, and children. About 4 o'clock in the evening, and we hadn't any more than got on good headway there before there was a terrible disturbance between the passengers and the deckhands. Handspikes and clubs made the blood fly freely until the captain called all of his hands aft and talked to the passengers, and order was restored again. Okay, so they're off the big boat, they're onto this smaller boat where all these Connecticut men are going to the quarry. So they're taking them from New York to Connecticut, and apparently big fight, everybody got bloody.
Jeez Louise.
Can you imagine being the wife and children on these situations?
It's horrible.
All went well,
How terrifying.
and we landed at Middleton, Middlesex County, Connecticut, about 4 o'clock in the morning. Portland is the opposite side of the river to Middleton, and it commenced raining about the time we landed, and I tell you, we was a wild-looking lot of human beings. We that had families had to hunt someplace to put them. Mr. Hall and Brainerd, two of the owners and managers of the quarry, as soon as they heard of our landing and it was daylight, was there to receive us and made their best endeavor to get us in somewhere out of the rain, for they hadn't got the houses finished for us to go in them. So they finally get there and their houses aren't even finished. So these are families with lots of children and their wives, and they've just gotten off of like 30 days on these ships, and they get there and their house isn't even ready.
The miserable, I can't even fathom.
Cold, rainy, miserable.
Awful. The sea, storms.
I myself with
lurkers, what'd you
larking
call
about, larking about with the girls. I myself with 3 other families. Yeah. I myself with 3 other families had to take refuge in an old deserted sailing loft where they used to manufacture ship sails. Mr. Brainerd went and sent us a cook stove with its utensils and sent us coal and provisions so we could cook and eat. The floor was our table, also our chairs, until we could do better. I think this was the Thursday before Good Friday. We considered we would rest ourselves and get ready for the work Monday following. But there was one scabby sheep in our midst. Instead of work, he got on a spree, and in the course of the day, he had got a table, which he called his. When I came home from work Monday, my wife, with his wife's consent, had set my supper on his table. When he came in, he told his wife he wanted supper, but she told him to wait until Mr. Wilson finished his. He said he'd be damned if he was going to wait for his table, and with that, he took hold of one side of the table and slid my supper, dishes and all, to the floor. It caused quite a rumpus, and the sheriff came. He had us both in irons until he heard my statement and that of the other man's wife. So, one guy goes out, probably steals this table,
right,
brings it back to this empty warehouse where they're all sleeping, and says that it's only his table. What a jerk. You're all in a bad situation.
Yeah,
there's all these families there, like...
Just get along.
Get along.
Why can't we get along?
No, nobody can.
Jeez.
So the wives agreed, hey, yeah, you can serve your husband supper. And then he went and knocked it off.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Not a
gosh.
very nice person.
No, it isn't. Okay.
Really bad people.
So...
Gosh.
At least he is in Connecticut.
At least they're on solid ground.
So,
Gosh.
William Wilson arrived in Connecticut, where he migrated from England. He stayed there for 2 years and worked for that quarry. Okay, during this period, his life was not pleasant. His wife was seriously ill for a long time. His youngest child died, and his fellow workers were far from congenial. Okay, then he picks up for this next chapter. Okay, so he didn't really write any more about his time in Connecticut. That was
done.
Done. Okay, so we're moving up. He says, I left work December 26th, 1852 for Illinois. I landed in Chicago December 30th, 1852. Came all the way from New York by rail, the quickest way I could get that day. So he's on a train right after Christmas until New Year's. That whole week, he's traveling from New York to Chicago. I left Chicago the morning of the 31st for LaSalle County by way of Rock Island Road, for it was just open for the public travel to Morris, Grundy County. Morris and Grundy County is a super cute town. They have an awesome quilt shop now. And that town is very historical. It has
where's that at?
It's Grundy County. It's in Morris.
Morris.
It's way up there, like kind of near.
Where?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Way up there.
But is it south of Chicago or?
Yes, south of Chicago. When I went to Morris, there I hit off a man with a pair of bobsleds and covered rig going to LaSalle, and he told me I could ride with him. But he said he couldn't drive through that evening, for it was getting late in the day, so he drove us as far as Ottawa on the Illinois River that evening. There we put up for the night and started for LaSalle the next morning. There was a heap of stonemasonry going on that day, and that was my business. So this guy, he's a stonemason. He was one in England. That's why he got recruited to do the quarry, and now he's in Illinois. He's a mason. There I found 3 men that I was personally acquainted with in the old country, and they gave me the address of William Vipond, and we were boys together in the old country. He had charge of all the masonry work there where I am, and that made me very anxious to get to where he was. So I spent a few days in LaSalle and headed here on foot, but there wasn't no railroad at all that day. The first day's travel brought me where Minunk now stands. I was making my way where the Illinois Main Trunk Survey was made with nothing but the pegs to go by. He's talking about the railroad. I traveled all that day till night overtook me. Not being aware that settlers were so thin at the time, I kept going on and dark came. There I was on a blackened prairie, which was just burnt over with not a star or light in sight, for the horizon was overcast and it was very dark. The wind was blowing on my right side when I came to a stop. So I turned myself around to take my back tracks to a house that I had saw before sundown. I walked that way until I saw a light and made straight for it, thinking it was the one I had saw before. Then I come to a big slough of water on the prairie, and I stood and looked at it a while, and being lower down, I had lost sight of the light. But the grass was standing up above the ice and water, so into it I went, in the direction that I had saw the light. That he's trying to guess where he'd seen that light, but he'd went down into a little bit of a holler. It's swampy. It's a big slough. Some places the ice would bear 1 foot up and the other would go in above my knee. I traveled this for about 1/4 of a mile until I came to the other side. Then I made for the rising ground. There I saw the light I had saw before. I traveled on for about 1/2 mile until I came to the house. It was some young folks that had just settled down for the night. I asked them if I could stay the night, and the reply was, yes, come in. They were not all so scary of a stranger in that day as they are now. I asked them if I could change my clothes, and they told me to go in that room and change your clothes. I was all prepared for that emergency, for I had a dry suit in my grip sack. Now we were all ready had our suppers, but I guess you want yours, they said, and I thanked them for the same and got my supper. Bedtime came on, and I prepared for drying my clothes, which that I did before I started on my day's travel. We fired up the stove, and I had a pair of long stockings which came up above my knees. These I hung on the oven door, which was next to the wall. A girl got up in the morning, fired up the stove, and had not seen my stockings till the feet were burnt off. I took it all in good part and said misfortunes will happen, had my breakfast, thanked them, and struck out again on the trail. All went well, I suppose, until I had traveled about 15 miles or more, and I came to another small creek.
Let's take a commercial break.
He just keeps going
he
and
goes
going.
From creek to creek.
Yes, we'll be right back.
Do you bowl like this? That's great. Do you bowl like this? That's great too. That's because whether you're a pro or you just want to have a lot of fun, at Peggle's Silver Dollar Lanes, we have a lane for you. We have Galaxy Bowling, gaming for kids and adults, Joe's Pizza, a full bar, darts, pool, and fresh and clean bowling shoes. Boy, does that smell nice. So come on down to Peggle Silver Dollar Lanes in Effingham, where we have a lane for you.
My name is Robin Stanford. I own Stanford Marketing. It's a promotional products business along with an embroidery business. And we do custom hats, t-shirts, anything, you name it, we can make it. People like that we do stuff in-house and we can actually make things here and that we're not contracting to work out to other places. We never say no. We always try to find a way to do it. If anybody can do it, we can do it. We are hardworking women, that is for sure. Come to Stanford Marketing in Flora for all your custom and promotional needs.
Give me all your lumber. Doors, paint, windows, electrical, plumbing, and much more. Oh yeah, give me all your guns too.
John Lucas.
What?
You better be dreaming about all the stuff we sell here at Zink Building Center.
Oh, I would. Zink Building Center in Louisville on Route 45. It's a cool place.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. We're talking about the journey of William Wilson and his family and their trip from England, Liverpool, England, over to Connecticut. And now he is in Illinois. He's working his way south. Take in mind, there's no mention of his family. Mm-hmm. They're not with him.
Yeah, that's why I was getting ready to ask where
we're going to get back to them. But for a while, he left them in Connecticut. Okay. He's out in Illinois scoping out jobs.
You'll probably, because we're on our last segment, you'll probably have to... This may
be to be continued.
I would be continue it to the next week.
Yeah. But for right now, though, let's take a look at something that he helped build in England. There we go. This
beautiful.
This viaduct. I didn't get the exact location of where this is over there in England, but he was one of the masonry men who helped build this.
Well, you know how I have a thing for Masons.
I know you do. Your dad and his brothers, they were all Masons. So
Grandpa,
this was, isn't that just beautiful? What a work of architectural and art and engineering. And yeah, that's gorgeous. He helped to build that.
Beautiful.
And ended up in Clay County, Larkinsburg Township to be exact. He's buried in Edgewood. Let's take a look at his stone, please. And how gorgeous is that? That's
unusual for back then.
It's in Edgewood. Yes, they are questioning why it was so fancy, and they think it's simply because he was a stone man. He knew how to do work like this, and he had a lot of connections to people in that trade. And by golly, they made him a beautiful stone. Now, William lived from 1818 to 1896, so the dates are not on his stone there in that picture, but 1818 to 1896 is what we're talking about with, and this trip. Right now, he's in Illinois, and this one started in 52. So I'm going to continue my story for just a little bit for 1852 until I get to a stopping point, and then we're going to stop until next week. So. He's traveling through these creeks, these sloughs. He stayed the night at a nice family's house, dried his clothes, his socks got burnt. But he came to another creek, and it had been froze over for a few days, and there had been a little rain and made a little raise in the creek, and it broke the ice up in flecks and had somewhat drifted. I got on the flecks, endeavoring to get across, but in I go up to the gable end of my breeches and was very well pleased that I did not go any further. So he thought he could step on the ice and kind of float across, but didn't work out. He got wet. He hadn't traveled very far until he saw another house, and it was getting towards evening, and I was so wet, so I thought I would stay for the night. When I came to the house, I asked to stay all night, and the answer was yes, which you don't get very often, in which you didn't often get refused in that day. I dried my clothes, ready for the next day's travel, and in the morning I started. I was 15 miles from Bloomington, Illinois. When I had traveled about 4 miles, I came to a small stream called Mackinac, which was full to the banks. Finding no way to get across, I left the railroad survey and made for a bridge 9 miles below. It was kind of a blind trail through the brush, and when I came to that bridge, it was quite a plain traveled road to Bloomington. I got a little information before I started out the next morning saying I had better keep on the mail route from one county seat to the other all the time working south. I worked myself along until night began to come on, and I came to a house by the roadside. I asked to stay all night. There I got a cool reception for the first time. An old gentleman met me at the door, and he said, "We don't take tramps in here. But if you see a light," which he pointed to in the direction I wanted to go, "you can get to stay there, for they will take anything in there." Oh, on I went about a mile further till I came to the house, and I knocked on the door, and as usual, I asked if I could stay all night. The answer was, "God bless." The man said, "Look inside," and I did so, and I counted 9 children, 3 women, and 3 men, all in a log cabin about 12 by 15, 1 story high. But the man said, "In ye come, so we can cuddle in a corner as we do." So tiny little log cabin, but if someone needed to stay, they stayed.
They let him stay.
So all these traveling people, 9 children, 3 women, 3 men.
Wow.
After spending a pleasant night in the crowded cabin, they wanted me to stay longer, but
Pleasant night.
Okay, I guess they enjoyed each other's company. They wanted me to stay longer, but I thanked them and told them I wanted to be on my journey. So I headed again on the mail route for the south and didn't see another house for over 10 miles on my way. About the middle of the afternoon, I came to another house, and some small boys were playing in the dooryard. I asked them how far I was from the next settlement. They pointed up the road and said, "Just over the hill," which it was a raise in the prairie as far as I could see ahead, and when I came to the summit, I looked all around but couldn't see any house, but could see another raise about as far as ahead as the one I had just came to. It began to be pretty dark, and I came to another slough that the road passed through about a half a quarter. Into it I go, places up to my knees and over them. I sat down when I got through and poured the water out of my boots and started on again. Looked around but couldn't see a light nowhere, but could see the road, though it was nearly a blind one. But I kept on till I suppose I had got to the raise in the prairie. The ducks and the geese were yelling, and it wasn't long till I came to another slough, but I served it just as I had the rest. I left behind and went a short distance and finally saw a light to my right, so I left the road and made for it. I at length got to the house, knocked on the door, but got no response except from a dog inside. He was barking furiously. I kept shouting and saying I was lost and wanted to stay the night. Finally, the man came to the door and talked to me, but did not open the door. I told him a straightforward story, and I did not mean him any harm, but if he would let me stay the night, I should very much oblige to him, for I was alone and tired, so he finally opened the door and let me in.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
No.
I would have been scared to live.
I
You
would have
never
been
know,
terrified.
but it's a different time.
It was a different time, but I would have been terrified.
And inside were 2 young people that had just settled down the spring before. I told him I had some conversation with some small boys at the house I had left north of me, and they sort of led me astray. But the man said I was 21 miles from that house. I stayed all night and dried up my clothes, ready for the next day, but I was then a mile from the road. The man did not give me very good encouragement for the next day, and I was then starting for Decatur, next for Sullivan.
Jeez.
He told me I should have to cross a river, and it was swollen very much and out in the bottom, but there was no bridge. There was an old man living on the other side of the river, and he kept a canoe, but he didn't think I could get near enough to have him fetch me over the river. I told him I wanted to go across, and he went back with me, and we both went across in the canoe. He was a jolly old Frenchman, and I had to stay all night with him. He wanted me to stay with him until it got better going, but him and his old lady, and he said his children were all away at school in Decatur, but I wanted to shorten my journey, so I started on my way again the next morning. I was determined not to be berated anymore. Berated?
Berated?
So if I came to a house in the middle of the afternoon and found there wasn't another very near, I would always put up for the night. I never got run off but once from one house on my way. Finally, I got to Sullivan, passed through it, what there was of it, and headed for Shelbyville. I had a roundabout trip, but they told me that was the best route, for I could head by all the streams by taking that route. Okay, so he crossed the Okaw River just before he got to Shelbyville, passed through it on his way to Ewington. I made Ewington on the second day after leaving Shelbyville, stayed all night with old Sam Fleming, and made my way to Dismal, where I am now. I tell you, I thought it hadn't the name for nothing. I landed here at Dismal the night of 21st of January, 1853. So he's traveling. This is all January. It's got to be freezing cold, and he's wet.
Yeah.
And I found the man I was hunting for. I hadn't saw him for years until that time, and we stood and looked at each other. And finally, when we got into conversation, we knew each other well, and he was very glad to see me there. For all he had was a few native boys clearing away the brush where the Chicago branch of the railroad now is. So I'm going to stop it right there.
Yeah.
He finally
Wow.
made it to the guy that he was searching for, this man from his childhood who was a masonry man who would help him get a job in Illinois that he wanted to work for. So he has made it into Dismal. This is...
makes you wonder what made him stop in Clay County.
Where is Dismal?
Well, I don't know. Some of these, there's a couple
I'm not
places
sure where Dismal
you
is.
mentioned I've never heard of.
He ends up leaving Dismal. He settles in Larkinsburg Township, which is what we're going to get to when I pick up this story next week. But hand me that ink pen, please. I'm going to mark
mark that real quick.
Ending spot.
But I just don't. We take for granted just picking up and going and doing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just one of those things. It's like, gosh, traveling back then. Like I said, you have no money. It's free. The weather, people are mean, and it's like it's one of those things. It's like we see a lot of crazy people today, and we all know that people. But boy, people back then were just savage.
And you never
They were
know.
savage.
Like most people were good, but there was also some crazy people that you didn't want to stay the night with. I mean, like.
Yeah, and they're staying at strangers' house and
being that
they're
uncomfortable,
opening up their house and
being wet and walking with like socks that don't have feet in
don't
them.
have feet, yeah.
Through rivers and streams.
In January,
in
I mean,
January.
I don't want to leave this building and walk to my car.
I mean, yeah, people today, we have no idea, like, walking into Walmart, like, it's raining and we have to get out of the car at Walmart and walk in, like,
Yes.
woe is
hate
me.
it.
And it's
Yes.
like, you have no idea what these people before us did, so.
Wow. It's unreal.
So we'll finish up the story next week, and then I'll go into a
Yeah, I
little bit
wanna
of
hear-
detail
I
on
wanna hear
his family
more
that
of
he
that.
went on to have, so. Well, he already had a family, but then he had more family.
Well, we want to talk. I can't
Yeah.
wait to hear about the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Okay, little Bill Engvall humor. Here's your sign. I was sitting in the exit row on a plane to Seattle. The man across the aisle recognized me and asked, "Are you going to Seattle?" I said, "Nope. I'm going to San Francisco. I'll be parachuting out in about an hour."
That's funny.
It seems like the more we get into, they get funnier and funnier.
Funny.
That's fun.
That is
I'm
fun.
glad I got that.
Yeah,
one.
that's a good way to end it. I like
that's
to
funny.
end it on a little
Something
laugh.
funny.
But
Yeah.
anyway, as always, you can watch our show on Wabash Channel 100, Catch TV. We air Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. and again at 3 p.m. Our new episodes air on Thursdays and Fridays, and you can find all of our episodes on our YouTube channel, by the way, with Beth and Stacey. Or just simply type in Beth and Stacey on YouTube, and our channel will pop up. You see our picture, click on that, and there's our page.
Yep.
Or like and follow us on Facebook. So, I don't know.
That's it.
I think that's it for today. So, thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you next time.
God bless you and have a great day.